Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. William Schnoebelen coming to you from With One Accord Church Ministries with a brief warning about what's coming up in the way of Satanic holidays and also some health and wellness information. So to begin, right off the bat, I would just remind everybody, and I know some of you that have been following us for a few years know this, but we're coming up on a major pagan witchcraft satanic holiday called Lammas or Lunasa, which is roughly around August 1st. It often starts on the 29th of July and runs through August 1st. So we're just a few days away from it. And we want to warn people about this because, and again, I'm not talking at the moment about, so-called Wiccans or white witches, but the darker people, the Satanists and so on, they are required on this particular feast to have a sexual sacrifice of a virgin girl between the ages of 7 and 17. That's what they offer to Satan on this night. And also, animal sacrifice. So this is a time when there's a lot of danger for young girls. Those of you who have daughters in your home, please pray over them and do your best to keep them safe during the orb of this feast. We've talked about how all of these different feasts have kind of orbs of a couple of days before and after that these sorcerers and black magicians use to acquire victims to sacrifice and things like that. So, just be aware, and we exhort you, of course, to be prayed up and to come against the principalities and powers of this dark season. We have prayers on our website for that. And we also, I would direct you, if you want more information on this particular holiday, Satanic holiday, we have, I think, at least 2 other YouTube videos that go into much greater detail about it than I want to do today, because I don't want to, reinvent the wheel. And I have something else to talk about. So just please be prayed up. If you're a spiritual warfare veteran, so to speak, please pray against these dark forces. We have again, prayers on our website for that, and you can download those for free at withoneaccord.org. Okay, so much for that. Now, what I wanted to do is I've had a few people, I made some kind of parenthetical remarks in several of my videos recently about the concerns of having small children and even young adolescents with the huge amount of use we're seeing of digital media, of smartphones and tablets and computers and TVs with older children. And people have said, well, okay, what's the deal on that? Well, this is going to be kind of a deep dive, and it may kind of blow some of your minds because, and here's a warning. What I'm about to say is going to probably seem to go against a lot of established medical advice. And of course, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a naturopathic doctor. And, we're not claiming that what I'm about to say is going to, cure disease or any of that kind of stuff. But realize that sadly, a lot of the stuff they teach doctors in medical school is 100% wrong. It really is. I mean, there are exceptions to that. They're the way they work in trauma surgery and in ERs and things of that nature, superb stuff. These guys are brilliant. Men and women doctors are brilliant. But in terms of managing chronic diseases, which is what most people have, that's the problem that I would venture to say 95% of people in this country suffer from are chronic degenerative diseases like diabetes, like heart disease, cancer, things of that nature that really, modern conventional centralized medicine, they can kind of manage these things, but they don't, they really don't have a cure for any of these things. And that's because they're not following the things that the Almighty Creator of the universe laid down for us. I'm going to explain some of this now, because this might be not new to some of you, and it might be new to, I would imagine it's new to most of you. But here's the thing. When you have a young child and you kind of use, because I know now, I mean, I don't know how many times I've been like in a store or a mall or whatever, and I see some little kid like 2 or 3 years old sitting there with some sort of iPad or tablet, playing on it. And it just, it kind of makes me cringe, because, people are using these things as digital babysitters. And that's not what little children, it's not really what any children need, but especially, I mean, at that age, the child's brain is developing at a very rapid rate, and you don't want to expose it to a lot of weird stuff. So here's the thing, and this is what I'm sharing with you is science, okay? These devices reduce a child's attention span, number one. That's why so many of them grow up, and a couple of years later, or 5 years, whatever, they have trouble paying attention in school, because their ability to focus on something for more than a few seconds has been damaged almost permanently because of the way these devices interact with their little brains. Okay, additionally, these things all, depending on how you have them set up, if you have all of the stuff turned off, then this doesn't apply. But most of them, if they have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, things like that, they are emitting non-native EMF radiation. And especially for a little child, that can be really damaging to the brain. Really damaging. And, a lot of times you'll see children, with the phone, and they're like, like a foot away looking at it and going like this, and all of that. It's just, it can cause cancer. And I know that's kind of heretical, and that the cell phone companies will, pay millions and millions of dollars to keep that kind of stuff from getting out to the general population. But there's a lot of science behind that, But what is often overlooked in these things is the light that these things generate. Let me explain something. I don't know this for sure, but I can surmise, because I understand. I spent years as a gambling counselor, and I had trainings from some of the leading experts, because at that time, digital gaming, meaning they were getting rid of like the old slot machines where, pulled the handle and there was a mechanical device and a little, the little cherries and whatnot would spin around, and if you got all of them together, you'd win money. Well, that was what they called them, one-armed bandits. And for generations, that's what they have. But about let's see, that would have been in the late 80s and early 90s, they started bringing in video slot machines. And now it's all that, because partly there's less mechanical stuff to go wrong, but they have learned by consulting with psychologists and psychiatrists and whatnot that if you create a device that emanates blue light and that produces rapid feedback, in other words, let's just say slot machines, forget about video poker, you immediately, within seconds, you find out if you won. And if you get a dopamine hit. If you win, you get this huge surge. And I can tell you this, because when I was in this field, I would go, and every now and then I would, try and do various things. And I don't want to get off on too big a rabbit trail. But the point is, they learned that this combination of rapid fire stimulation and blue light was highly addictive. Notice that, highly addictive. So, fast forward, and you have the advent of the iPhone, which I think started in 2006, and all these other iterations and different companies and whatnot since then. And all of them are built on this system. They all emanate this blue light, and especially with the advent of these social media things like, Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all of that, Twitter, they're designed, it's the same, it's almost the same mechanical thing as if you were pulling a slot machine lever, like this. You're flicking up and down with your finger, and it's like you keep getting these dopamine hits from the blue light. And what does that do? It exhausts your reserves of dopamine. And then, what does that mean? Well, dopamine is a feel-good chemical, along with things like serotonin and oxytocin and endorphins. Those are all brain chemicals that the body produces, that the Almighty made us so that when we do something that's good for us, we feel good. So, for example, if we go for a walk in the sunlight, we feel better. That's a dopamine hit. If we help a little old lady across the street, it gives us a dopamine hit. It's like our body's own internal reward system. And what these digital device companies like Apple and Google and Samsung, whatever different outfits, they have hijacked this process and made this superbly addictive little device that you can carry around, have it with you all the time, and you're constant. I read somewhere recently that the typical 15 or 16-year-old checks their smartphone 300 times a day. Think of that. 300 times a day. Older people, not so much, but still, I know I am guilty of that. I'll, probably go on my phone every 15 minutes or so and see different things, and it's because it's designed to do that to you. But especially for little children, this is dangerous. Okay, now we're going to go deeper. This light that you see in these things, including televisions, computer screens, if they're new, I'm not talking about those old clunkers that we had back in the, 20 years ago, but all these nice TVs and computer screens and smartphones, they all emit this blue light. And that is a big problem because, see, the Almighty designed us to receive powerful signals from sunlight. And we've got to remember, up until a little over a century ago, most of us were outdoors all the time. Most people were, unless they were stuck working in a factory, which was starting to happen at the end of the 19th century, most people were doing agricultural work or construction work, which mainly involved you being outdoors. And because of that, and let's face it, for thousands of years since Adam and Eve, we have been outdoors. We've been walking around in the sunlight, and that's how God made us, is to be exposed to the light. And the thing is, nowadays, it's the reverse. 90 to 95% of people spend most of their time indoors, either because of their job or because when they get home, they want to sit and either play video games or watch TV or get on their phone, you name it, and they don't go out. And I know there's a lot of exceptions to this, but generally speaking, this is a problem. Because if your body, and people within this field, which is called circadian biology, and I'll explain that term in a couple minutes, they call all the light that we're exposed to in the modern world, whether it's in offices or schools or our homes, it's junk light. Just like if you go to McDonald's and Burger King and you order food there, it's junk food. Well, this is junk light because it's totally foreign to what the Almighty made us to look at and to experience. Because what many people don't remember, if they learn this in school, is that our skin receives information from sunlight. And there are incredible things that it does. And most people do not avail themselves of that. So sunlight has a wonderful, variable rainbow of light. You've all seen prisms, if nothing else, you've seen the Pink Floyd album, where you see the white light of the sun break into 7 colors. It's beautiful. And I think most of you have probably seen a rainbow. Well, all of those colors are present in sunlight throughout the day, but to varying degrees. And that's how the body knows what time it is. That's how God designed our body, to know what time it is. We don't need a watch. I mean, nowadays we kind of do because our society has changed so much. But there is an organ in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus that's hooked into our eyes. And so when our eyes see the sunlight in the morning, like all of us used to do, we'd get up, 100 years ago, we'd get up and go outdoors and start to work. And none of us back then looked at a cell phone first. And that would give your body the signal through this suprachiasmatic nucleus, through your eyes, what time it was. And it would secrete a hormone that fit into that time, okay? So blue light is like a timekeeper. And what happens is, throughout the day, blue light waxes, and it grows until noon. And at solar noon, which may not be the same thing as 12 o'clock on your clock, and then after solar noon, as the day goes by, it diminishes until finally, around the time of sundown, there is virtually no blue light left, and it's all red light. Okay? And all you have to do is look at a sunset. A sunset is predominantly reddish light, sometimes more than others. And of course, it's beautiful. Now, here's the thing. When our eyes see that light, that blue light in the morning as we're intended, it signals our brain and our hormones to be released, particularly cortisol, which is the fight or flight hormone. It's what gives us the energy to get out of bed, to go out and do whatever we need to do that day, whether it's go to a job or cook food or go hunting, whatever. And that's, again, how we were made. And then, throughout the day, and then when you get toward evening, the blue light diminishes, and that makes us feel like we want to relax. I mean, isn't this beautiful? Then, when the sun sets and there's nothing out there in the sky but red light, that makes our body produce melatonin. Now, a lot of you have probably heard of melatonin. It's called the sleep hormone or the nighttime hormone, but it's much more than that. Much more than that. I could do a whole 30-minute thing just on melatonin, and I don't want to take the time now. Suffice it to say, it's an extremely powerful and beneficial hormone. Okay. And that helps you get to sleep. That helps you relax. And that's, again, how nature intended, God intended, however you want to characterize it. Now, what people don't know, because we've been taught, especially in the last 40 years or so, that we need to fear sunlight, that sunlight causes cancer and all this stuff. And honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. Sunscreens cause cancer, and I don't want to get into that because that's a whole nother half-hour talk. But just, start searching this stuff out on your own. The fact of the matter is, according to PubMed, which is a very reputable government depository of thousands of medical studies, back in the 1950s, before anybody was using sunscreen or suntan lotion, copper tone, I think, was just coming out. And people were spending a tremendous amount of time outdoors, going to the beach, working out in the field, whatever. And there was only 0.7% of the population, according to this study, that had skin cancer. Less than 1%. Now, I don't remember, I'd have to look it up again to quote it, but it was something like 25 years later, I think. So well into like the late 70s or early 80s, the incidence of skin cancer rose to 17% among the general population. Think of that. And you can almost say, okay, at the same time that skin cancer was rising up, People were also using suntan lotion and the sun blocking stuff and all of that. Plus, they were increasingly replacing healthy natural fats with seed oils like soybean oil and canola oil and all that junk. Those things are very, and I could do a whole thing on that, but again, that's way off topic. But the point is, this association between skin cancer and being out in the sun is almost entirely bogus. Now this is going to vary. I mean, if you're like, a person of very fair skin, if you're like a redhead or a blonde person, you're going to want to not be out in the sun as much as if you're, obviously a black person or a person of darker skin hue. But beyond that, I mean, again, what I'm saying does not mean you got to be out in the sun for 8 hours every day. But what I am suggesting is that you want to have sun breaks throughout the day. I mean, if you're working in a wretched, fluorescent lit room in an office somewhere, by day, when you have a break, go out into the sun. Don't just sit around the break room under more fluorescent lights and drink coffee and eat a donut. I wouldn't advise eating a donut anyway, but if you've got to do something like that, do it outdoors. Get out into the sun. Because when you get out in the sun, it tells your body, okay, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And realize this, every cell in your body, trillions of cells, have mitochondria in them with your little energy machines that basically they make everything happen in your body. And every one of those mitochondria has clocks in them that are set by this suprachiasmatic nucleus. And that gets set by looking at the sun. Now, so for example, if you get more sunshine, this is all stuff that's been backed by science. Most people know sunlight makes vitamin D. If you get out in the sun, when you get that slight redness in your skin, that's a sign that your body is making vitamin D, which prevents skin cancer, among other things. It's a hugely healthy vitamin, and that's a whole nother talk. Sunlight lowers your blood pressure. Sunlight improves your mitochondrial function. I just mentioned that. Sunlight lowers inflammation throughout the body, especially in your gut. I mean, some of the people that are, promoting this stuff they're doctors, will say, if you have gut disorders, if you have IBS or things like that, go out when you go out into the sun and pull up your shirt a little so that your belly gets sunlight, because that will help. It creates free electrons, which means your body has more energy to do the stuff it has to do. It reduces, believe it or not, sunlight reduces your risk of breast cancer. Also, it lowers all-cause mortality. And honestly, fearing sunlight is detrimental to your health. Our ancestors, for thousands of years, loved the sun. They were out in the sun as much as they could be. And they didn't have skin cancer. And, they didn't have a lot of the diseases that we have today. Cancer was unheard of 100 years ago. Hardly anybody had cancer. Heart disease. 1% of the population had heart disease 100 years ago. Most of these degenerative diseases were unknown 100 years ago. We have created them with our modern crummy society that we have created since World War II. And it's not even we that have created it. We've sort of participated in it, but it's the elites that have created it. Okay, I got to get going here. I'm never going to get done. Now, here's the thing. When you use a tablet or a cell phone, you're hit with blue light. Bam, just like that. And it tells your brain that it's noon. It could be 9 o'clock at night, but your brain says, it's noon. Time for me to wake up. Time for me to make cortisol. And then people wonder why they don't sleep very well. When they're looking at their phones or their iPads or whatever, right up to the moment they fall asleep. So, when you look at screens and you get this blue light, the first thing it does, it turns off your melatonin production. That inhibits your ability to fall asleep and your ability to dream. And it turns on cortisol. Now, here's the problem. On immature brains, this can have serious consequences. So if you have a child, and when I say immature, understanding, I'm not using it in a pejorative sense. I mean, but science, neurology will tell you that the human brain doesn't really fully develop until you're 24 or 25 years old, often dependent on you're a man or a woman, but somewhere in that range, in the mid-20s. So, if you're prepubescent, or if you're a young teenager or even an older teenager, and you're looking at your cell phone all the time, it's going to totally screw up your circadian rhythm. It's going to totally screw up your body's ability to tell what time it is, and it's probably going to mess up your sleep. Is this part of the reason why we're seeing this rise in mental health problems, especially among young people? Because when you're making your dopamine jump all over the place by doing this, and then all of a sudden, because this is how the body works, you get to a point, just like, dopamine is in essence a drug. It's a drug that the body makes, but it's still a drug. And if you get too much of it, you exhaust the body's ability to produce that dopamine. And then what happens? You get depressed. Because without dopamine, we feel, ugh. So you wonder, okay, why are so many young people depressed? Why are so many young people suicidal? Why do so many young people have ADHD and all of this stuff? I would submit to you, there's many reasons. The toxic environment, the horrible stuff in the media, TV and movies and video games, but this is a part of it. And unfortunately, it's a part of it that has gotten off the radar of almost every single parent in America. And let me just tell you this. They did a study, some scientists who were really intrigued by this whole phenomenon of the way children behave nowadays. And what they did is they took the same class, in a classroom, and they had it lit in the usual way, because nowadays most all classrooms are lit with fluorescent lights, which are almost pure blue light with a little UV light in there too. And there is typically nowadays, there were all kinds of minor or major behavioral problems among those children within that week that they were, having them in a regular normal classroom. Well, then they took the same children, turned off the fluorescent lights, opened the windows, let the sunlight in. Night and day difference. Just because those children were getting sunlight from open windows, because most windows nowadays don't let in all the colors of the sun. They're designed to block infrared light, and they're designed to block other forms of light. So you can't just look at the sun through a window or through your glasses. Well, anyhow, they had these open windows so the sunlight was streaming in on these children, and they were just all wonderfully behaved. They didn't have any behavioral problems. And I can remember growing up, again, I'm showing my age, but they didn't have fluorescent lights in our classrooms. They had, big incandescent bulbs, and all of that. And we didn't have hardly any behavioral problems all the way through grade school. Nobody was really, misbehaving. And of course, it was a Catholic school, so there was that fear factor, that the nunzilla would come after you. But anyway, so just something to think about. Now, the other thing you need to know is, again, I mentioned this, but blue lights are what they use in casinos. They don't allow hardly any red light in casinos. And these smartphones, as I mentioned, are designed to be like little miniature slot machines. And if you're, when you're using these things, you're getting hit with these dopamine things that are almost affecting your brain the way cocaine would affect a person's brain. But again, these are young, immature brains, and it's really messing up their ability to process information. And if you use these phones or whatever after sunset, it's going to, even if you're an adult, it's going to mess up your ability to sleep and to relax and to pray and be still in the presence of Elohim. And that's partly why they want to do this. They want to distract people from praying. They want to, whether it's young people or adults or whatever, they want to keep you from praying. And if you're addicted to looking at stuff on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it might be, you aren't praying. And it's all part of the devil's web, so to speak. And the other thing that most people don't know is this blue light also affects a hormone called leptin, which has profound effects on weight gain. I mean, there are people, because of their addiction to cell phones, they do all the right stuff. They diet, they exercise, they do all these things, and they keep getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And they're just totally frustrated. And then, someone tells them about this, and they start practicing good circadian rhythm, getting up, looking at the sunshine the first thing, getting out in some sun on and off throughout the day, and then shutting down all their digital devices when the sun sets. And they start losing weight. Now, that might sound almost bizarre, but if you have a weight problem, give it a try. Let me say one quick thing, and I'm going to try and close here. But I've used the term circadian rhythm, and some of you may know what it means. It's like two Latin words, circa meaning about, and then dia meaning day. And the all living things are designed by God to have this clock, this circadian rhythm built into them, that they understand whether it's a dog or a plant or a lion or whatever, unless, of course, some of these animals like lions are nocturnal. But most animals and plants, they go dormant when the sun goes down. That's called circadian rhythm, and we're built the same way by our Father in heaven. So that's what I mean by circadian rhythm. Now, so what you want to do, I would invite you to pray about this, because and start looking this stuff up, and I'm going to give you a couple of resources at the end that you can go and check out on the internet, and mountains and mountains of information. There are so many studies. If you just go into, DuckDuckGo or whatever and type in circadian rhythm studies with anxiety, circadian rhythms and depression, circadian rhythms, you're going to find dozens of studies supporting what I am telling you. But see, conventional medicine doesn't want to talk about this because there's no money in it. They want to push drugs. And, you can't make any money by telling somebody to go out and look at the sun. So, here's what I would recommend doing. As I mentioned, when you wake up, first thing, before you turn on lights, before you look at your phone, go outdoors. If you wear glasses, take them off, and look at the sun for 5 or 10 minutes. And if it's really, like in our part of the country, it gets really cold in the winter, okay, wear a parka, but still go outside and let the skin of your face and your eyes pick up that light for as long as you can do it, if it's really, really, really cold. That's the number one thing. And don't wear contacts, don't wear glasses, and for heaven's sakes, don't wear sunglasses. Okay, now even if it's cloudy or rainy, that doesn't matter. You can still go out and look at the light that the Creator has provided for you on that particular day. Even if it's rainy and overcast or snowing even, you still get the spectrum of light that you need, because IR light, infrared light, goes right through the clouds, just like that. And I could do a whole thing on infrared light, but that's for another time. And then, as I said, throughout the day, take light breaks. And then finally, at night, when the sun has set, and most people, you can, ironically, you can look on your phone and it'll tell you when sunset is, if it happens to be a cloudy day. And then at that point, say, okay, I'm off my phone, or I'm not watching TV anymore. And, oh, you say, preacher, that's horrible. I got to watch, whatever. Well, there is a solution, but it costs money. The solution is, if you are wanting to use your digital devices and or your TV after sunset, you need to get high quality blue blocking glasses, not the junk you get on Amazon, not the junk you get from your local optician. Those things are virtually useless. Again, I'm going to put up 2 or 3 sites that have really good, high-quality glasses that block the light that's coming off these screens. And some of them even have things, glasses that you can wear during the day. Like if you have to work at a computer all day, which many, many people do, you wear these glasses and it blocks the unbalanced blue light. Because see, let me just end with this one thought. Blue light isn't bad. It's only bad if it's isolated. Because you go outside throughout the day until sunset, you get blue light, but you get the whole panoply of light, because that's how the Almighty made the world. But with these devices, all you get is this very isolated range, and it's that imbalance that throws your brain off. So in any event, if you really, I would pray about this, because again, if you need the glasses, it is an investment. It's not that big an investment, but it's an investment. But what is your health worth? What is your mental health worth? Because there are a lot of people that have had adults and younger people that had serious depression, anxiety, all sorts of different mental problems. Women that want to get pregnant and cannot because their hormones are dysregulated. Different whole kinds of things like this. And they've started following this protocol that I'm laying out for you. And again, there's more to this, but I'm just giving you a brief version. And they get their problem solved. They can throw away their pills. They can conceive a child after years of not being able to. All kinds of wonderful stuff. So, and again, the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know about this stuff because they can't make a red cent off it. And just parenthetically, I would say I am not making a red cent off of, like I'm recommending these websites and these places that sell these glasses. I don't get a penny from them. I think their products are excellent, and in our family we use them. So I'm recommending them to you, and I don't get any kind of cut back on it. So, okay, I'm sorry this went so long, but I think this is an important topic because it affects both our physical and our mental and our spiritual health. So let me just say a brief prayer. Father, I pray this has been pleasing to you and edifying to your people. I pray that they will seek your face about these things and see if this is really a valid path towards greater health and wellness that they need to follow. And Father, I also pray that you would inspire them, Father, to pray against the dark forces that are coming at us over this Satanic holiday coming up, Lammas, from the July 29th through August 1st. We pray against these things. We come against all the dark spirits and fallen celestial beings that are involved with this thing, and we command them to leave us now and to leave our families right now. And we say, Yah, rebuke thee. And we command you to leave us and to leave our families and to go where Yeshua HaMashiach tells you to go by the voice of his set-apart spirit. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. Well, I hope this has been kind of different. I don't often put on my naturopathic doctor hat, but I just really felt led to do this because of many questions we've received. So, if this has been a blessing to you, please subscribe and share. And also, of course, we ask you to pray for us, especially as we come near this Satanic season. And please also pray about supporting the work we're doing with your offerings. We're giving you a card that explains the various pathways you can use to support our work. So thank you so much for listening to this long kind of scientific rant. And we love you in Yeshua, and we pray Elohim's richest blessings to be upon you, and we say, Shalom, Shalom.